I want to welcome to the show, Mr. Theo Fleury. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. I've been looking forward to this conversation. So
amazing. I just have to be honest, Theo. Growing up as an Edmonton Oiler fan and from Edmonton originally, you were always sort of enemy number one. But
well,
but
I must have been doing my job then if that was the case. So yeah,
absolutely. No, I think that's exactly it, because you had this presence, you had this swagger to you, and you were definitely someone who commanded the attention. So my first question: have you always had that presence, that swagger, or was it developed early on throughout a few challenges in your life?
No, I think that's always who I've been. From like when I started playing hockey, when I was 5 years old, I absolutely fell head over heels in love with the sport. And, the first 40 some years of my life was spent, at a rink somewhere, and it was my happy place. It was the place that I felt most comfortable. I just love to play. That was the biggest thing was I just love to play and love to compete, and I loved winning. It's that's what it comes down to, and that was probably the reason why I had the biggest success I had was guys like me, my size and whatnot, from a pure physics standpoint, I'm not supposed to have success, but it's really hard to measure intangibles, like heart and compete and work ethic and all those things. Those things are hard to judge, but combine all those things with talent and ability and all that stuff, and you get Theo Fleury. So
that's amazing. And everyone who's listening right now, they're typically high achievers or really driven for success. And so I know that this conversation is going to be very valuable. One of the challenges that I get asked, or one of the questions I get asked quite a bit is, okay, I'm going for success and I'm successful in some areas, but it's also bringing up a lot of challenges in other areas of my life.
Yeah.
And so one of the questions is success with balance, or success with, is that something that you've experienced too? Is, okay, success, it's not just a straight road. It's like, whoa, it's brought up a lot of other things to take a look at.
For sure. Well, I work in the field of trauma, mental health, and addiction, right? You want to talk about challenges? Well, there's three challenges there that a lot of people have, but I really believe it starts with trauma, right? Everybody's experienced some sort of, adversity in their life, but what adversity teaches us is it teaches us resilience. Totally. Right? And then once we have resilience, then there isn't anything we can't overcome, right? And so when we're allowed to be uncomfortable, that's when we find out what we're made of and how far down we want to dig in order to overcome the adversity to get to resilience, right? A lot of people quit before the miracle, right? A lot of people quit before they have a miracle or a breakthrough or, whatever you want to call it. And those are the times when you have to lean on your team of people, because they will help you overcome whatever challenge you face. But we live in in an environment where we're not allowed to talk about trauma. We're not allowed to talk about mental illness. We're not allowed to talk about addiction issues. And so because of that, what do? We end up stuffing all of these emotions and feelings as much as possible, or we, use coping mechanisms to suppress, that emotional pain and scars that are left behind from that experience. And so, I was that guy, right? I was that guy for many, many years in my life. And then, I think it was like 6,019 days ago, I hit my knees in a washroom and I surrendered. And I turned my will and my life over to the care of the universe, or God, Allah, Buddha, Jehovah, tree in my backyard, whatever you want to call that. I surrendered and I gave up control because I had failed so miserably trying to do this on my own that, surrender was a big part of it. Right. And when I surrendered, that's when the journey of healing, self-discovery, self-love, self-care, that's where everything started.
It's amazing. And I so relate to your story because of the experiences I've gone through. And I think this is universal, what you're speaking about. How we start off and really learning how to grow and love ourselves, even more. Because I remember that moment too, Theo, where I hit the ground and it was surrendering and then realizing that there was something beyond me having to do it all. And it was this feeling of just like, oh my gosh, what if I could actually have some like help in this, from, something that's trying to either push me into something or pull me or guide me or direct me or, so I love what you're saying, because I had this whole attitude, sort of like the lone wolf, where I resonate with what you're saying. Is like, we weren't allowed, but you're bringing about awareness that we can talk about these things.
Well, you have
to. The second thing that
you have to, otherwise, you're in for a lot of pain and suffering in your life, right? That's what I've learned. And it all starts with vulnerability, right? Vulnerability is the key to any kind of healing journey, right? And really, what is vulnerability? Vulnerability is storytelling, right? And so, when I wrote Playing with Fire and it came out in 2009, like I had no idea what the hell I was getting myself into. All I had was this story that I hadn't told the world yet.
Yeah.
And so I was full of fear and anxiety, and because I didn't know how everybody on the whole entire planet was going to react to what was in this story.
Right.
And what happened was, I found the purpose for my life by writing that story, right? Because, I talked about my sexual abuse and what happened to me. And what happened was, I got run over after that. And people, I remember like 5, 10, 15, 20 people at every book signing were coming up and saying, me too. Right. Mm-hmm. And it allowed me to sort of realize why I went through all that stuff at the beginning of my life was, adversity built resilience. And then I told my story, and then I started healing, and I started collecting people as well. Right. People ask me, what do you do for a living? I say, I collect people. That's what I do. I collect people who have the same story as I do. Right.
Totally.
And because I was so vulnerable, people were able to relate to that kind of vulnerability, because everybody wants to tell their story. They really do. They really do. But what society has taught us is that, I grew up in the suck it up era. I grew up in the tough love
Yes.
military style coaching, that was out there. And because I was so vulnerable and so honest and so open and so willing to tell this story, that a lot of people gravitated towards that, and they use that as fuel for themselves to find that courage and find that strength in themselves to be able to tell that story. And when you tell that story, it is such a relief, and as long as you don't get judged, and as long as you don't get, people take that information and use that against you, as long as that doesn't happen, the world really sort of opens up for you and creates a different space and a different energy and all of that, so I'm very grateful for all of those people, along the way who've also shared in their own pain and suffering, with me along the way.
That's very courageous. And the two things that jump out to me as you're talking about that is sort of the shift that we're moving into, not individually but collectively too.
Yeah.
As we look around the world, you don't have to look too far to see the old system, whether we're talking about medical, government, healthcare, education. It's like everything we believed in is ready for an upgrade.
Yeah. Holistic healing for me has been, I would say, the greatest discovery of my life, right? And
I love that you mentioned that, because I was going to ask you, how important is health in, one of the metrics of whether you call it living your best life, whether you call it success, love.
Yeah.
How important is health?
Well, it's everything, right? It's absolutely everything, but healing is a 3-step process, right? It's physical, it's emotional, and then, I say spiritual, but a lot of people get triggered by that word. So I use the word energy, right? So it's body, mind, and energy, right? And when you lift the conscious level of your vibration, the stuff that you're going to attract in your life is people that are going to help you along your journey of healing, right? Because you can't do it by yourself. So you need to find your tribe of people that are all trying to do the same thing, right? And when you find those people and you inspire them and they inspire you, guess what happens? They never leave you. They never leave you, right? That's why, when you help somebody heal and they help you heal, there's a bond there that lasts, for the rest of your life, right? And we don't do enough of that, right? And especially what you're talking about, because what did they do? They isolated us. They took away community. So you couldn't go to church. You couldn't go to the rinks. You couldn't participate in group activities, right? And the way we're wired as human beings is we need other people around, right? We need that interaction. We need that connection, right? What's the opposite of addiction? Connection, right? You know what I mean? And so they took that all away from us, and, we're isolated. And where's the worst place you can be when you're isolated is inside your own head, right? And so...
Can I ask you a question just on that, Theo, just on your opinion there? Because To me, looking at things, there's this whole external world that's going on, and it's collapsing, and new things are being born.
Yeah.
But we also have to be the individuals who can help bring forward the the new way of what you're talking about,
Yeah.
Theo, which is I hear you talking about love and connection. And it's really
Yeah.
interesting because my experience, because I've gone through a few different marriages and divorces,
Yeah.
and what I look at is I there wasn't really a lot of the love and support. It was just sort of like, oh my God, this is what's wrong. Got to do this, or and it was like, oh my gosh. And so what you're talking about now is a new way of holding relationships, which is, oh my gosh, I can heal when somebody actually looks for the best in me and I look for the best in them. Would you
Yeah.
agree with that? Is that what?
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it. Because there's no courage in judgment. There's no courage in judgment, right? But there is a tremendous amount of courage in telling your own story and stepping out and going on your own path of healing. And when you decide to go on a path of healing, guess what happens? All the people that you had around you before that journey disappear.
Totally.
Right? They're all gone. They
Yeah.
are all gone. And so now you're left sort of to your own defenses. That's why that surrender piece and connecting to the source, whatever you want to call it, right? Because when you're connected to the source, guess what? You can tap into that energy 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? You just have to ask for it.
Yes.
Right? You just have to ask for it and it's there, right? But what I've discovered is there's all kinds of these really cool practices out there that will help me develop a habit of tapping into the source when I need it, like meditation and yoga and cooking my own food, growing my own food, drinking healthy water, exercising, all of these things. That's all self-love. That's all self-care. When you do those things, you are taking care of yourself. But when I was writing my second book, Conversation with a Rattlesnake, I discovered the 4 things that trauma teaches us that become the core beliefs of what we think about ourselves because they were taught, right? There's always a reason for the behavior, and that behavior is a learned behavior from childhood. Okay.
Absolutely.
So number 1 is abandonment and neglect. Number 2, I'm not good enough. Number 3, I'm not lovable. And number 4, which is our opioid, fentanyl, and heroin users, is, do I even exist in the world? Right? So when I discovered those 4 things, because I lived my whole life like that, right? Yeah. And once I discovered that, that's what I needed to rewire. I needed to rewire my brain.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Yeah. Perfect. I was going to say, so how did you begin to do that? Because I think you're pointing towards not just physically, but mentally, and then ultimately energetically, you need to connect these disconnected parts. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I had to have a relationship with myself, because after my abuser left my life, what happened? I took over the abuse and I abused myself because that's all I thought I was worthy of. Right. And so, it was as simple as, getting gifted, a smudge kit.
Yeah. Okay.
And learning how to meditate. Right. I had no idea what the hell meditation was like, you know what I mean? Because I spent, the first half of my life trying to achieve the highest level of success as an athlete as I possibly could. So I wasn't focused on anything other than, that was my life. Right.
And that's
this,
very physical,
yeah,
mental too, but
yeah,
you know,
yeah. But there was no spirituality in that. It
right.
was all about ego and,
Mm,
all, all of these, these superficial things, and, uh, chasing money, and then,
yes,
driving the good car, having the trophy wife, and,
yes.
the party scene, and, all that stuff. And it was just like, it was not reality, right? Because where I came from, where I grew up in like poverty, you
Yes.
know? So when I had money, I was like, oh my God, I have all this power now because I have all this money. I can control people. I can be an asshole and all these things, right? I can be self-centered, selfish, all of these things. And I was just like, this is insanity. This is insanity. And then I had my trauma on top of all of that, right? So it was just like, you know, it wasn't reality, right?
Would you say
So I
that?
needed, I needed a swift kick in the what to, to be like, yeah,
Well, it
this
seems
is
like
not working.
it. What? I love it because that was where I was going to go next. Was when things stop working, because it seems like we all hit this roadblock or this dead end, and then we're sort of faced with a decision, and that decision could be or might be, oh my gosh, do I work harder? Do I just push through? Or is there another way to go in order to, allow something else to unfold? And as I listen to your story, even right now, Theo, it's like starting off, because I had the same thing, starting off from a poor mentality and then trying to go for the opposite of that, which is like more money, but I was still on the same energy line.
Mhm.
It was different, but it was still the same energy line
Yeah,
until I realized, oh my gosh, I have to develop more mentally. I got to think about things
yeah,
differently.
yeah. But
And
you got to remember though, the male brain isn't fully developed until you're like 28, maybe sometimes maybe 30. So my whole prime of my career, like I had no brain. I had no brain at all. So that means I couldn't self-reflect, I couldn't process anything. None of that stuff was happening, right?
right.
It was just full out 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right?
Yes.
And so there was never any time to um, self-reflect or process anything that I was going through. And then here I am, a year removed from my NHL career, and I got a fully loaded pistol in my mouth, ready to pull the trigger and end my life. Not because I wanted to die, but
Totally.
because I was completely exhausted from that first half of insanity of my life. Right. And, but I had to go through the process, because what came out of the process was I didn't pull the trigger, which meant that I actually wanted to live. But I had no clue how to live life on life's terms. All I knew how to do was cope. That's it.
Oh my
All I knew
gosh.
how to do was cope. Right. And then when I surrendered, turned my will and my life over to God, that's when my life changed. That's when all those tools that I was lacking in the first half of my life, all those tools came with surrender.
So one of the things I want to just unpack a little bit, even just for the listeners right now, because there's so many people right now, Theo, as you know, who are they're hitting that roadblock and like, oh gosh, what do I do?
Yeah.
To me, when I hear you speak about this, when things stop working, it's not the end of the line. It's not, I want to die. It's actually, I want to live, but I want to live on the next level.
Yeah.
And going from just a physical reaction to life to bringing in that mental reflection, to begin to even contemplate, okay, what does life on the next level look like? Would you say
Yeah.
that that's accurate in your
Yeah.
story?
Yeah. And so what come out of that surrender was service,
Mm,
right? That I made a decision that for the rest of my life, I was going to be of service to other people, right? And that's what changed the mentality. And when you do service work, guess what happens? The rest of your life falls right into place. You never have to worry about money. You never have to worry about a roof over your head. You never have to worry about anything ever again in your life, because you are providing, you're putting stuff in your karma bank, not your bank account, but your karma bank, right?
is that that sounds like a totally different way of living though, right?
Yeah.
That requires a certain level of trust, a certain level of presence, a certain level of,
Yeah.
whoa, I actually have to take a look at my life and not just, would you agree, not just put the pedal to the metal, be like a world champion athlete or CEO that's just like bottom line, bottom line. We need to become more conscious. And that's where life is actually maybe trying to push us.
Well, yeah, because our responsibility now, because of our experience, is we have to teach people how to be leaders,
I love that. I
right?
love that.
You know what I
Totally.
mean? Like,
Totally.
um, you know, I got to play with the greatest leaders in the history of our sport. So Messier, Gretzky, Lemieux, Sakic, Yzerman. I got to play with these guys.
Wow.
And I got to observe in real time how these guys led people. And they were so humble, so kind, so considerate, made everybody a part of everything that they were doing. And I was just like blown away, because there was no ego. There was none. There was no ego. It was all about creating people who did not believe in themselves and teach them how to believe in themselves, that they were better than they thought they were, right? That's what leadership is, right? And if we're not out there creating more leaders, guess what happens? Exactly what happened the last 2 years. That's what's happened, right? Because on the planet right now is probably the worst leadership we've ever seen in the history of the planet, is this kind of leadership, right? And so you're talking about a huge shift, right? There is a huge shift happening.
Yeah.
And it's about enlightenment. It's about light. It's about love. It's about respect. It's about getting back to, to the core things that matter, right? Because we're so insane right now. Everything is so insane because of trauma, because of unresolved trauma.
Totally.
And when you're in that state, like, you can't think critically. You're just surviving, right?
Yeah.
You're just surviving. And we need to get from surviving to acceptance, to surrender.
This is awesome, because even if I draw a correlation between health. If you look at your body, health is where you have this organism, all the cells operating together.
Yeah.
And that's what I hear you saying is, when we can all come together individually, but come together to form a new identity, a new way of living, one that's more love, not just individual survive. I'm going to get the money and I'm going to do things, but no, it's not about that. And to me, that's why things no longer work that way and they're falling down.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just balls of energy wearing skin suits. That's it. And you know, the vibration on the planet right now is at a very low level, right? And what I'm being told by all the spiritual healers and teachers and everything is we need to increase the vibration on the planet, which means we all need to go on a healing journey, whatever that looks like to you, whatever that looks like, because there's 10,000 different ways to heal, right?
Totally.
You just got to go out, find your formula, and then rinse and repeat one day at a time, right?
Absolutely.
Because that's how I stay sober. Is I don't think about yesterday, I don't think about tomorrow. I try to be as present as possible in the moment, because in the moment, do I have everything I need? Absolutely. Right? But we get so caught up on all the exterior, we get bogged down from our past. And because we don't know what the future holds, we're full of anxiety.
Yes.
We're full of fear. Well, what's the opposite of fear? Faith. Because when you have faith, fear disappears when you have faith.
Totally. To go from the pinnacle of your NHL career to shifting into writing your books and everything else that you are moving into, there's in that shift, Theo, there's also, we have to be able to let go of an identity, who we even think we are.
Right.
Would you agree with that? That that's a
Absolutely.
part of the surrender. It's not just,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to wait and see what happens. It's like, oh,
Well,
geez, I have to change here too.
when you get to be my age, it's about legacy now. What did I leave behind? Did I leave the world a better place than when I got here? That's what it's about. And how do I get there? Service. That's
Right.
it. Service. That's it. Energetically, when you have that attitude, guess what happens? You heal. It's that simple, because when you're helping somebody, guess what? You're not in your own head.
Yes.
You're in your heart. You're in your heart space.
Beautiful.
Right? Because this is mental illness. The antidote for mental illness is get into your heart, because that's where all the good stuff lives. Compassion, empathy, forgiveness, love, light, caring. That's where everything lives, is in your heart space.
Would you say that in that heart space, because we've heard it said the most difficult journey is to go from your head to your heart.
Yeah.
That heart space is really where a lot of the source of the energy, if we're talking body, mind, spirit,
it's all there.
Begin to connect the dots. Is that the goodness you're talking about?
Yeah, that's it. People always say, when they talk about Theo Fleury, they say, oh my God, that guy had a big heart. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And I forgot about that. Right? I forgot about it because of the trauma, the fame, the fortune. Oh, I forgot what made me successful. And that was my heart. Right? So what's making me successful in my transition of life? My heart. Right?
It will guide you, won't it?
Oh, it never lies. It never lies. Your head is lying to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? That's why you need to meditate. That's why you need to be of service, is because I don't want to be in my head.
It's an ugly place.
Yes.
But when I'm in my heart and I'm doing things from the heart, I don't have to worry about nothing. Nothing. Because the universe, the spirit, the source is going to take care of me. And what else am I doing? I'm increasing my vibration on the planet. Right?
You're bringing it through you, through your heart.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And we're having, like, how many conversations do two guys have about the shit we're talking about right now? Zero.
Totally. Totally.
Right.
Absolutely.
And if we as men don't heal, this is what happens to the planet. Right.
Well,
so it's time for us men to be vulnerable and to heal, instead of our wives or partners, hoping that we do it.
yes.
Right.
Yes.
So it's time to call out men. Enough of the fucking, enough of the macho bullshit, all that stuff. You will be way more respected, loved, cared for if you get into your heart space.
And that might
think about our children, what they need right now.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And that's the biggest reason why we're in this state that we're in, is because we've been distracted by a little thing called, or the word success. And what defining the word success is not the big house and the great car and great job and all. That's not it. It's not it.
But would you say, Theo, that in the very defining, it's our mind that we've used to define it? That's why the mind is always more in order to, try and achieve success. Yet, would you agree, in your heart, it's there, it's now, because it's the feeling of that worthiness that the mind is actually trying to get to. So when you can bring the heart and the head, it's like, there's something that happens.
We're so afraid of negative emotions.
Totally, man.
Right. And because we grew up in tough love, military style leadership,
the head,
we were taught to suppress all of these emotions and fears. But what we missed, because we didn't deal with the negative emotions, is we missed the opportunity to learn. To learn the lesson that we needed to learn, right? That it's okay to cry. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to, be vulnerable, right? We missed that lesson, right?
To me, it's the whole other side of the learning of success, is that vulnerability, is where the dark and the light meet.
Yeah.
And it just expands.
Yeah. And that's how you get to higher, consciousness. That's how you get to higher learning. That's how you get to, where you want to go in life. Right.
You have to embrace.
Embrace negative emotions. That's where the lessons are. That's where the learning is. Right. Because it's going to teach you about, where was the first time I felt like this? As a 5-year-old little guy. Right. So when you tap into, or you're doing any kind of inner child work, I've seen incredible transformations from just by doing that exercise alone,
And that exercise is, when did this first occur?
Yeah. When did I first feel like this? When did I first feel like this? And you know what they told you? Stop crying.
Totally.
I'll give you something to cry about. Remember that that line? So what is, not only does that get rewired in your nervous system, but it also gets rewired in your DNA too. And then what happens once you're in a relationship and you start having kids? What are you doing? You're passing that piece of DNA onto your kids. Right.
Absolutely.
But what I know about DNA and I know about the nervous system and I know about the brain is it can all be rewired.
So, Theo, and that's what I wanted to just open up a little bit, because obviously that's a massive conversation. And I love that you are in the leadership role of, bringing this to men, but also to the world. It's perfect timing. So when you talk about leadership and the DNA and the opportunity to heal, what are some of the things that we can begin to do? What are you doing now? I know you're speaking all over the place, bringing this message.
Well, we've got a bunch of projects on the go that I think that are projects that come from the universe, not from me, because I'm not that smart,
Beautiful though. Yeah.
Just, it's all about the message, right? It's all about the message is that the world is traumatized. We all need to heal. We all need to heal together.
Yeah.
Not individually. We all need to heal together. And that it's okay. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like it's okay. Wherever you're at in your life is okay. Right. And the greatest lessons I've learned was from all the adversity, right? Like my parents, early on in my life were struggling with their own trauma, which then traumatized me. But, I look at my parents now and it was such a gift to have that kind of adversity young in my life. My abuser, that was a gift.
Yeah.
Right. All that stuff was all gifts and realizing that there are no coincidences on the planet, that everything happens for a reason. And if you're awake, you're going to get the lesson. But if you don't, it's going to come back anyways. Like it's going to just keep coming back until you figure it out. So the more of a healing journey you're on, the more lessons that will appear in front of you and give you those amazing opportunities to become, the person that you always wanted to be. Right. And everybody gets so freaked out about, everything in life. But, if you can take a step back and look at the 40,000 foot view of where we need to go and where we're headed, it's not that big of a task. It's baby steps.
Yeah.
And it's one day at a time, right? The healthier we are, the longer we'll live, right?
Yes.
That's proven. And the body has an incredible ability to heal itself if we take care of it, right? Which is the lesson I'm learning right now, because when I turned 50, I didn't really have a whole lot of respect for my body when I was playing sports. And, when I played the game with a fearless abandon.
Yep.
But, now when I get out of bed every morning, I'm like, holy shit, like, was this worth it? Maybe I should have taken better care of myself, except maybe I shouldn't have drank as much. Maybe I shouldn't have done this much, whatever. But I know, because I have all the information in front of me now, that I can reverse all the damage that I did. And if I do that, guess what's going to happen? I'm going to get to live longer. I'm going to get to help more people. I'm going to be able to, see my kids grow up and become adults and get married and have kids and be a part of their lives, because I missed the majority of their lives because I was pursuing, my own career, all that stuff. Right. And that's what people need to understand, is that every relationship is repairable. Every relationship is repairable as long as you have two willing people who want to engage in that kind of healing together, right?
You know, what I love about what you just said, Theo, is to me, that's the real value that I see in all relationships right now is relationships. We can't do it on our own. But when we do get into relationship and even intimate relationships, very often those traumas can come up. All of a sudden we project upon them or they project upon us.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that I've learned from my marriages and divorces is like, oh geez, this little challenge might actually be a good thing for me to see what I've been overlooking.
Yeah.
And the same thing with the relationship with my kids, to be able to, go back and be like, okay, you know what? I was operating off of that level of consciousness, but, now I'm committing to, do better, be, more.
Well,
I love what you're saying.
you need to give yourself a break,
Totally.
right?
Totally. Oh,
Because-
yeah.
but because the world is so judgmental,
Yeah.
right? I got to a point in my life where I said, I don't really care what people think about me,
Yes. Yes.
I'm really comfortable in my own skin. And I used to be a people pleaser.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not that way anymore. I just want to experience peace, joy, happiness, and serenity at some point, even if it's for like 5 seconds. That's it. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like, I don't want, the extreme, but I know I'll get there eventually if I just continue to keep doing what I'm doing on a daily basis. And that's working on my physical, working on my emotional, and working on my energy. I have to do those 3 things every single day of my life and create a new habit.
Absolutely.
And when I do those things and I'm consciously thinking about those 3 things every single day, guess what happened? I got better. Right?
I guarantee probably sitting down to meditate was maybe not an easy or a natural thing.
No.
It might even be completely opposite to what you were used to, which was like go and like get it done versus sit still, do nothing.
Yeah. It's hard for guys who have ADHD to sit and meditate, but I got there, right? I love it. Like, I absolutely love it because it's time alone. It's time for rewiring and recharging and, all those things and
Connecting those pieces of you. I love it.
And life is simple. Like, my life is simple. Like, it's very, very basic and simple, right? That's it. When I go to work, I understand what I need to do at work. But when I leave, it's all about self-care. It's all about, like, I come home, I lay on my electromagnetic mat when I get home from work and I decompress. Before I go to sleep, I put either sleep meditation on or 5D meditation on or manifesting meditation on. And I just try and chill. Right.
So that's been a part of your new routine. Would you say that?
Yeah.
How long have you been doing that, Theo?
Probably 6 weeks into the pandemic.
Okay.
Because I fell into a brutal depression about 6 weeks into the pandemic, and I was like, what the hell is going on?
Right.
Because I'm a guy, I spent $1 million on therapy. I've done 10,000 hours of therapy, every therapy known to mankind. And here I am, depressed. Like, I stopped eating, stopped showering, stopped going to the washroom. And I was, and I always thought, because I'm wired to win and compete, that I thought I could just obliterate my mental illness. And I never accepted it. Right. And once I accepted the fact that, yeah, there's going to be times in my life moving forward where this is going to happen. And so what I did is I went and acquired more tools so that that would never happen again. And that's where I found the 5D meditation, the magnetic mats, the you know, all of this stuff that I use now. Right.
Wow.
You know, because that's what healing is all about, is it's a journey of acquiring tools so that I can experience peace, joy, happiness, and serenity. That's it. You know, I don't want to be angry. I don't want to be pissed off. I don't want to be full of rage anymore. You know, I want to get to sadness. I want to cry, because I know when I cry, I heal my anger and I heal my rage, because that's what's underneath the anger.
Yeah.
Right. Which then makes me a kinder, gentler, softer, less combative person.
And to me, what's just like coming in is, as you say that, a kinder, gentler person is now all of a sudden you start to align more with your heart versus the mind. And there's a little piece of the healing that can begin.
Absolutely, for sure. And then you just want more. Like you just want more of it, right? You want more of it.
Wow.
That's it.
I love it.
You know,
I love it.
Like, this isn't rocket science. It really isn't. It's just making a choice, making a decision, you know, surrender, find something that you can believe in, you know, and every day, you know, do something to heal, whatever that looks like to you, right? You know, and then at the end of the day, self-reflect and say, did I do what I set myself out? Did I set out to do what I wanted to do? And if it's no, that's okay.
Right.
You know, don't beat the shit out of yourself because you didn't do it. You know what I mean? Tomorrow's a new day.
Right.
Right. Tomorrow's a new day. You get every day you get an opportunity to be better, right? I want to be better today than I was yesterday. Well, what does that look like? Whatever you want it to look like.
You know, Theo, even on that note right there, to me, that's gold right there, which is, to the type A personality or the high achiever, sometimes we can be driven by fear of, I didn't complete, I'm not good enough, versus what you're saying, give yourself a break.
Yeah. Let it go.
Give yourself a break.
Yeah.
And that there can be success on the next level that begins to unfold just by heart work. Yeah. Not just the mind, but heart together.
Because if you're beating yourself up, that's the old you.
Yes.
I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable. Feels like abandonment. Oh my God, I'm alone again. Right? You're beating the shit out of yourself. Yes. Instead of giving yourself a break and saying, oh, well, I'll do it today. Right? It's like, you know, being an addict and an alcoholic, right? It's a one day at a time thing. Because if I get too far ahead of myself, guess what happens? I'm probably closer to a drink.
Yep.
Or, you know, snorting a line or whatever it is, you know? Totally. So it's just about, everything's going to be okay. Just chill, do it, you know, try and do it tomorrow. And if you don't do it tomorrow, try and do it the next day. Right? It's not about, I need to do it now. Well, if you say that to yourself, what are you setting yourself up for? Failure.
And if I can add to that, because this is like, I'm loving what you're saying, Theo, because if you force anything, and we're also talking on an energetic level, if you force things energetically, there's a polarity in it, which it's going to come back at you.
Yeah.
So it's much better to just like, okay, where's the peace? Where is the love in this? And to put that first versus trying to force or control my way in order to be happy. It's
Yeah.
very often, okay, it's not working. Take a step back.
Yeah.
Take a breath.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And we forget to breathe.
Totally.
I always catch myself holding my breath all the time.
Yeah.
Right. And why am I holding my breath? Because I'm in fear.
Yes.
Right. You know, so
that's what we do.
Have to remind myself, you know, breathe, you know, it's not that bad. Right. As bad as we may think it is right now, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. Right.
Sure.
And that's why collectively we can get out of this.
Yes.
We can get out of this, but we have to come together. We absolutely have to come together. You know, whatever it is, you know, the Protestants and the Catholics and the vaxxed and the unvaxxed and all, we got to come together. Yes. Otherwise it's a really sad ending to a story that could have been great.
Beautiful. Right? I love that.
Yeah. Is that, you know, stop being judgmental, you know, I think the truckers were a perfect example of love and light. Because no matter what they threw at those guys, they just said, you know what, we're just going to be kind and we're going to nod our heads. And if they arrest us, we're going to go to jail. And you know what, it was such a great example for all of us to just, you know, to just take a step back and go, yeah, that's the kind of Canada that I grew up in. That's the kind of Canada I want, you know? So we've already had the example. So let's just build on that. Let's just build on it. Right.
Non-reaction.
And when we build on that, guess what happens? The vibration gets stronger and to a higher level. And if that consciousness gets to that higher level, guess what happens? They can never do this to us again.
Everything
it'll be the world will be exactly what we've always wanted it to be. Really, truly, it will. You know,
healthy individuals and a healthy world coming together.
Yeah, because we should all be living in abundance. Everybody. The world has so much to give. And you know, there should be no homelessness. There should be no addiction. There should be no mental illness. None of that stuff shouldn't have to be here. And it's one person at a time, right? That's it. Yeah. That's how I do what I do. Is I don't get overwhelmed, right? Because of the problem. I just, you know, every day I wake up trying to touch one person's life every day, right? And you know what? You know, God puts that one person in front of me every single day, every day, right? And if you change one person, you know, it's like the old Vidal Sassoon commercial, right? Two friends tell two friends, so on and so on and so forth, right? You know, when you go 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 exponentially, it happens quick.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Absolutely.
So yeah, you know, that, and I really believe that's the sole purpose why we're all on this earth, is to help each other. That's it. At the core of who we are is service. That's it. Service. How can I help you? How can I help you?
And then
that's it.
The connection.
Yeah.
The connection where we all sort of naturally join, you know, so.
Yeah. It's like E.T., right? E.T.'s heart was as big as, right? You know,
yes,
that's it.
Absolutely.
Right.
when you shine that heart light out, it just takes the tone of everything down to the level it's supposed to be at, the vibration it's supposed to be at. Right?
And that's it. We have the vibration. We just have to tune into it.
Yeah.
So
like we are powerful, powerful beings. Like we have no idea. Like we're living on maybe 10% of our potential as human beings.
Totally.
Seriously.
Absolutely.
You know,
and I totally get it.
And you know, and if we can get to like 50 or 60%, look out.
Yes. Theo, this has been an absolute pleasure. You have been so vulnerable, so authentic, and in sharing your message. And so I appreciate you and I honor you for sharing this message and the leadership role that you're taking to help spread the light, the love to everyone.
Yeah.
So,
well,
you know,
I'm not doing anything. I'm just following what the script is for me that I decided a long time ago before I even got here. This is my choice, right? And the script has already been written. I just need to follow the script, which means get the hell out of the way and just let it happen.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And that's the demonstration for everyone. So
yeah. Awesome.
I appreciate you doing this, man.
My pleasure. I always love talking about this stuff, and you know, it's you know, life is a journey, right? And totally. You get to choose which path that journey goes in, right? But it all starts right here.
Yes, that's it. This is the starting point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
well said.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Theo. Have an amazing day, and we'll catch up again real soon.
Okay, buddy. Take care.
All right. Take care. Bye for